we're close to a very good deal, and if we can make it good, otherwise we just start up with the Department of War, as we call it. I would rather get a deal because we can open the strait immediately upon signing. The one guarantee that I have to have is that there will be no nuclear weapons. They've agreed to that. And it was very interesting. They originally said, we will not develop a nuclear weapon. I said, well, what happens if you buy a nuclear weapon? So now it says we will not develop or in any way purchase a military weapon. That's a big difference.
All right, so a deal was close, but President Trump reportedly demanding tougher nuclear guarantees from Iran before signing off on that negotiated ceasefire extension. Negotiators now heading back to the drawing board. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Taylor Riggs, along with my co-hosts, Dave McDowell, Brian Brenberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the entire hour, Fox and Friends Weekend co-host, Griff Jenkins. Great to have you, Griff.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I love the Big Money Show.
So the U.S. responding to new attacks by Iran, even as the president pushes diplomatic efforts to hammer out a peace deal. Meanwhile, Wall Street is entering a critical week with Friday's jobs report and major chip earnings coming up. Hanging over all of this, consumer prices. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent insists that inflation is temporary.
It's a very limited spike. It's energy driven. It's a supply shock. We will get to the other side of this. Markets live in the future. Markets are looking through this. This is a wipeout. We wipe them out. So no, I'm not surprised because, again, the information that I have that we're looking through this.
All right, Griff. So we'll get to the markets in a little bit. Certainly looking through all of this, and he is spot on that markets are forward-looking and they are seeing something really positive on the horizon. But I want to start with you about just the ongoing and the offgoing. I was making a joke that I was gone all last week and I came in and it felt like things were still kind of where we were a week ago with Iran. And I'm wondering where that frustration level is.
Well, if we're going to make a joke, let me just call this the Charlie Brown football Iran deal, because literally we keep getting to a close deal. And I applaud the president's patience to get this done because of the historic nature that this deal would be, because it's not Obama's JCPOA. It's a huge deal, particularly with the implications if it leads to Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE buying in on the Abraham Accords. But that said, the problem, it seems, Taylor, is that we don't really know who is negotiating this deal, because you keep seeing the foreign minister and the speaker of Iran's parliament, right? You've got Ghalibaf and Arachi that go and they're doing these talks, but yet we know that Ahmad Vahidi is the commander of the IRGC. He was the very first commander of the Quds Force back in the 90s. He's now in charge of the IRGC, and we keep seeing them breaking the ceasefire. We just saw over the weekend, Iran launched ballistic missiles at Ali Salim, our air base in Kuwait, just miles from the Iraqi border. And now you're seeing Iran signaling that because Israel attacked Lebanon over the weekend, they're less inclined to get to the table. And so, the president's patience, I think, is going to wear thin eventually. He seems to be committed, and obviously in that interview, he thinks we're closer and closer. But at the end of the day, the signs seem to be that we are getting back to starting up a much heavier kinetic action.
Jackie, are you surprised that patience has gone on this long?
Yes,
I
think many are.
Right? That, if you thought that you try to immediately open the strait over Memorial Day, we thought maybe we would see some activity, we didn't. Then that would take a couple months for prices to come down to set us up for the midterms, or at least get through peak driving season with, a tailwind of knowing that prices eventually could come down with the strait open. And yet June 1st, we're sitting here and I am still not seeing any signs of opening.
Your characterization when you started was right, which is when you left, we're not really any different than we were. But there are some nuanced changes that I think are important, which is also to your point about the president using a toolbox kit item that nobody really thought he has, and that is extreme diplomacy. Griff, to your point, to get away from a bad deal, a JCPOA kind of thing, the devil is in the details here, and the president understands that. He's a businessman. He's put together many deals, real estate deals, Fine print, very important. So in the nuclear language, for example, he's really getting granular with it. They're not going to buy a nuclear weapon either. An Axios report talking about this deal and talking about the 60-day window, saying that it's more specifics about how the U.S. will get the material and the timing of that. And then they go on, another source saying, telling Axios that Trump also wants to amend some of the wording around the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. So I see almost like a very fine, pointed legal kind of analysis here that he wants to make sure every aspect of this is right. Now, to his diplomacy tool that he's using, he's got the economic pressure on, he's got the military pressure in the region. So he actually does have the luxury of the time, even though we're heading towards those midterms. Gas prices are going down. It's $4.30 or so around there. So that's been a positive sign. And crude, even on these strikes over the weekend, now only up close to around $94 a barrel, so still remaining in check. But Griff, you're also talking about this dynamic that he's dealing with. Will he be able to negotiate at all when you've got the IRGC so disconnected from what I call the ceremonial kind of leadership that does want to make a deal? Reports this weekend as well that the president offered the supreme leader his resignation, mostly because of butting heads with the IRGC, not wanting to come to the table and take a military tack to keep this going. So I don't know how those inner problems in Iran are going to resolve themselves, but the president's been very clear. He's going to take this as far as he can on paper to get what he wants, but he's also at the ready to take it to the next level militarily if he has to.
Dagan, I love listening to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. I've always said I think he's one of the smarter people in any room that you walk into. He knows these markets. And he is correct when he thinks about it is an equity market, at least that is looking through this. And maybe we could argue what's powering it if it's all AI and underneath the surface, we're more concerned. But I am shocked that we are entering month 3 and you have the S&P 500 that's now up for 8 straight days, the longest winning streak since April 17th. 13 months and now on pace for its 23rd record close this year, the 5th straight record in a row. So I'm wondering if this is the equity market that's telling us something very different, or if this is an equity market that's being driven by AI and really not, understanding or being clear about sort of the issues that are going on in the Middle East.
Well, if you're a stock investor and you're caught up in the mania of AI, in the bubble, you don't care how high interest rates are. Mm-hmm. And I look at the bond market, and lenders to the U.S. government are telling the Treasury Secretary and the world, and not just here, that, hey, you might have gotten us into a pickle because you're spending a lot more money, blowing out the budget when we're already running roughly a $2 trillion, we'll see, budget deficit this year, $39 trillion. And growing in debt, $104 billion in interest on the debt that you're paying every month. And then you drive up energy prices, and that's wildly inflationary. And I will challenge what this Treasury Secretary has to say, because he is asserting that once we're in the clear, energy prices come down, all is well. Well, not so fast, because are you triggering something in terms of behavioral changes in the American people and in the consumer? Because we have been going through, as a nation, really a world, the last 6 years, this inflationary spike. And once inflation expectations become unmoored, unanchored, then what happens is that changes induced by fear of price increases then lead to even more price increases. That when people see prices aren't going to come back down, then it becomes this vicious cycle. And you're already starting to see changes in consumer behavior that are ultimately very disruptive to an economy if longer-term interest rates go up, because we're a nation that runs on credit. So you think about the panic buying of gasoline, where Costco says its gas stations set all-time volume records. because consumers were seeking lower price fuel. Well, these are individuals who are driving way out of their way just to save a few cents a gallon on gasoline, because they're not Costco's on every corner. So are you driving half an hour to save a few cents per gallon? Then you also have in autos, 1 million new car buyers are gone, and they're not coming back anytime soon. High gas prices, rising interest rates, stubborn inflation being blamed. And then you also have to start worrying about housing, because insurance and maintenance are going up. If interest rates keep going up, people change their behavior. So if behavioral changes are triggered because this is all happening when we have not gotten over the inflationary spike that started during COVID, you don't know what might happen in terms of consumer expectations and the long run trajectory for inflation in the world.
Brian, you were Mr. Fortitude a week ago. I was waiting for it. What are your takes on all of this, and have you sort of changed how you're thinking about it?
First of all, it's nice to have you back.
Thanks.
Welcome back. I was kind of hoping you'd have sorted all these things out for us.
Nope.
By the time you got back, you didn't. Here's what I like about, so I was kind of hoping that we'd get this great deal because we had the Situation Room. That was on Friday, right? Nothing happened. I will say, though, one thing I didn't want to see come out of that Situation Room was a bad deal. Like this wasn't worth it deal, right? Something that was really squishy and Iran gets off with, a light slap on the wrist, blah, blah, blah. I did not want to see that. So I like that President Trump has done some edits to the deal.
Okay, right.
I'm looking through these edits. They look like things that are good for America. Like we're going to be more specific about how we get the enriched uranium out. That's good. We're going to be specific about the Strait of Hormuz. That's good. So I like that what I would say is he's trying to cut a deal that makes it worth it. And I think that's really important after all we've done, that this be worth it. I would say we're at a point now where one of two things have to happen. We need to change the way they're calculating things. And by they, I mean Iran. Okay. So I will say it again. And we're kind of quietly doing it, by the way. All these headlines are saying we're quietly doing it. We need a big old fat Project Freedom.
Yeah.
To get ships moving. It sounds like we're doing it quietly. That changes the calculation. Or we need to change who's calculating things on their side. Okay. I appreciate they're living in caves. They're communicating by carrier pigeon. That's fine. I don't think we ought to be tolerating that. Like they need to pull it together and figure it out. And if they're not, then we need to change who's calculating on their side. We've done it before, and I think we need to do it again. The world is watching this, and it's clear that Iran is not interested in not pursuing a nuclear weapon if they don't have to. They want it. And if they want it, then the world has to see that that's something that can't happen. And they better start supporting what the United States is doing. Yeah. Because we're doing work that benefits everybody. And it is costly. I agree. It's very costly. So we better make it worth it.
They've never changed.
Not showing
I
up
mean,
so
to your
far.
point, they've been unchanged ever since. And there's little signs that it is. By the way, the other thing that Lauren Simonetti has done on FBN, leading the charge, and we did it over the weekend, is the fact that Iran is still selling oil through a shadow fleet scheme to China.
Right, from
and
ship
that's why
to
they
ship,
keep holding out, because they're still getting some money, because these ships are going from Iran down to the Strait of Singapore and the eastern.
Well, the Wall
outer
Street
port
Journal is
limits.
the one that did
Yeah.
that huge expose last week on the ship-to-ship transfers.
So hopefully the administration will maybe target that some more, because, they're hurt economically, but they need to be strangled.
But the world kind of needs that oil to make its way to market. That's why you got oil under $100 a barrel.
Yeah.
Less
We're
Iranian oil,
going-
more good guy oil. That's what I say.
We're going to keep talking
guy.
about this for the next couple days. That is probably a guarantee and a promise that we can hold our hats on.